When you guys hear that, what comes to mind? This, by the way, I should warn you, it said so right up front on the introduction. This is an interactive discussion class. So I'm not going to stand up here and lecture. I'll ask questions, you guys answer. So let's...
I think the temple.
First thought, temple. First one in mind, too.
I swear there was a talking conference, and I want to say it was Elder Oaks, but I can't remember. It was like return and, maybe it wasn't return and report exactly. Return and receive. And he changed like kind of the report idea to, you know, at the end of this life, like everything that we're going, everything that we've done, when we go and return, we should be focused on receiving the blessings of, did anybody listen to that?
I know which one you're talking about. It was a good one. But he did start out with the whole return and reporting part, didn't he? And that was still just as important to do in our roles as not just TGLs or OCRs, but also instructors, right? Our instructors need to return and report. Who else needs to return and report in this line of work? The students, right? We ask them to go and do something. We ask for them to come back with the assignment completed. That's returning and reporting. Where goest thou? We saw this morning. I actually threw this slide in. I was sitting there. I don't know if you guys saw me punching away while we were in the opening thing. I was over in my table punching away, trying to get more slides in. And it's like one of the brothers leaned over. He says, you know, the more you add, the more you have to take away. So we'll probably be jumping through some of these. But where goest thou? That's really the theme of returning and reporting. Where are you going? Not where have you been? It's really more, where are you going with what you're doing? What have you done? Why did you do it? How did it go? But where do you want to go? And that's all part of it. You were mentioning Elder Oaks. So would you go ahead and read this quote for everybody?
Elder Dallin H. Oaks. Anyone, did you want me?
Yeah, just read the whole thing.
Elder Dallin H. Oaks. Anyone who performs anything for the Lord must do so with all his heart, mind, and strength, and spare no effort toward that end. None of us will achieve perfection, but it's quite clear that that's the goal. That's the idea toward which or with we strive. And the principle of accountability is inherent in that. The scriptures are replete with teachings that we will be accountable for the use of our talents and the fulfillment of our responsibilities.
We are responsible and accountable for what we've done. In the end of time, we're told that when Christ comes again in the second coming, that we'll be gathered, the saints will be gathered into Zion, and that there will be an account given by the priesthood brethren. Those, particularly the priesthood brethren. You guys remember where that account's supposed to take place? Anybody remember where it's supposed to take place? Say it louder. Adam on Tehaman. What's going to happen there?
The sons of Adam will meet and be accountable for what happened on earth.
Yeah.
The keys and how they use the keys.
And every one of us, right? Not just every prophet, but every one of us will be accountable for that and have to give an accounting. Same thing's true. That's a big picture thing. That's a big hoopla, right? But what we want to look at, though, of course, is how do we make that smaller for us? I'm going to take a moment and watch a video, which unfortunately I discovered late last night that on my computer in the office, sound comes out great with PowerPoint. Doesn't work so well on my laptop. So I have to switch programs to make it work. So you'll please forgive me as I switch here and bring this in. If I can make it work, come on. Come on, come on. There we go. There we go. Maybe. It's hard to run a mouse with this screen like this. There we go. There we are. I knew I could do it.
For the kingdom of heaven is as a man traveling into a far country, who called his own servants and delivered unto them his goods. And unto one he gave 5 talents, another one, to every man according to his several ability. And straightway took his journey. Then he that had received the 5 talents went and traded with the same, and made them other 5 talents. And likewise he that had received 2 talents, he also gained other 2. But he that had received 1 went and digged in the earth, and hid his Lord's money. After a long time, the Lord of those servants cometh and reckoneth with them. And so he that had received 5 talents came and brought other 5 talents, saying, Lord, thou deliverest unto me 5 talents. Behold, I have gained beside them 5 talents more. His Lord said unto him, Well done, my good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord. He also that had received 2 talents came and said, Lord, thou deliverest unto me 2 talents. Behold, I have gained 2 other talents beside them. His Lord said unto him, Well done, good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord. Then he which had received the 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew thee that thou art an hard man, reaping where thou hast not sown, and gathering where thou hast not strawed. And I was afraid, and went and hid thy talent in the earth. Lo, there thou hast that is thine. His Lord answered, and said unto him, Thou wicked and slothful servant, thou knewest that I reap where I sowed not, and gathered where I have not strawed. Thou oughtest therefore to have put my money to the exchangers, and at my coming I should have received mine own with usury. Take therefore the talent from him, and give it to him which hath 10 talents. For unto every one that hath shall be given, and he shall have abundance. But from him that hath not shall be taken away even that he hath. And cast ye the unprofitable servant into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth.
Okay. How does that relate to the principle of return and report?
Well, it relates closely because the Lord gave these different people different talents or different assignments. And he let them then, let them go, let them do their thing. But they were still accountable because in the end, he came back to follow up on the assignment that he'd given or the talents that he'd given. And he, even to the effect of taking a talent, taking something away from somebody who had been unprofitable, who hadn't done anything with it, and giving it to somebody else, to really demonstrate how important it was that they did what they were asked to do with their assignment.
Do you think he gave them direction before he left? I mean, he didn't just walk up, here's some money, here's some money, here's some money, see ya. I mean, he had given them some direction, right? You think so? We have some direction in what we're to do, right? We get our new instructors, we don't just take them in there, toss them into a class and say, here's the class, here's the subject, make it happen. We give them a little bit more direction than that, don't we? So there's a lot that we can learn, and I'm sure that we're going to come back to this. We're going to talk a little bit more about this, as we go through this. But I want you to think about that with the talents. In our word, talents means something like a skill or something like that, right? In the Lord's example, it was money. In our particular use of talents, if we go back, let me jump back here. If I can get this to work again, come on. I think I got to click on this spot over here. Got to find my mouse. There it is. If we go back to Elder Oaks' thing. Let's see here, it's this one. And we look at the word talent in here, which I know I saw it. Bottom line. Yeah, right there. Our talents. What was he referring to there? Wasn't referring to money, right? So what was he referring to? What talents? Our skills, our abilities, our gifts. What we teach. We have skills. If you didn't have the skill, if you didn't have the education, if you didn't have the background, you wouldn't be here teaching. Neither would your instructors. Right? But that doesn't mean we all have the skill or the ability to actually teach it. We might know it, we might be able to do that activity, but we might not necessarily have the skill to teach it. So when we look at this, we're looking at helping them to build that ability. Let's go ahead and jump ahead here. So what do we return and report? What are some of the things that you can think of that we would want to go and return and report here at BYU-Idaho?
The things we have to return and report are things teachers are doing well, and then teachers' struggles that teachers are having.
Very good point. Yeah. Not only what, I liked what you added there first, what they're doing well. Actually, when I was writing this up, I hadn't even thought of that. That's why this is a discussion. What they're doing well, that's a great one. We have certain things, to keep in mind. What gets measured gets done. Have you guys ever heard that saying before? What gets measured gets done. I heard that credited to so many different people. I thought for years, that was a Brigham Young saying. And he might have actually said it, but it turns out that it's apparently even older than that. It also goes, what gets reported, gets done well, right? Because if you measure something, it doesn't necessarily, it might get done, but doesn't mean it's done well or correctly, right? But if it gets reported, you start to think, well, other people are going to look at this. I'll give you an example. When I first started teaching online, we were required to work office hours. You guys remember that? How many of you guys were here when we had office hours? Several of you. Many of you know that we got the message, we don't have to do office hours. Oh man, I was all over that email. I was like, yeah, no more office hours. That thing, first thing that went off of my page was I went straight in there and got those out of there. I didn't like office hours. I hated them. Of the entire time that I've been teaching at that point, I had had one student who showed up at office hours out of over a year of teaching at that point. Just one. Several semesters, just one student. I felt like they were the biggest waste of my time. Every week I was sitting there and just stare at my computer, I would grade and I would do this and I would do that, but nobody ever came. But I had to report, I did my office hours because my TGL was asking, she wanted to know, you do your office hours? Oh yeah, I sure did, Farah. I got it done. And she said, okay, good. So I did a good job. I reported, I did well at my office hours because I showed up. As soon as I could get rid of them, I changed it. You know what? I have spent more time than I ever did doing office hours now that we changed it. So as the TGL, what I ask my instructors is I go back and, hey, do you ever meet with your students in a point, as an office hour or a one-on-one? And inevitably, if they know I'm going to ask, they start, oh yeah, I go out and I get them, the ones that are having trouble, and I bring them in, I work with them by just simply asking. Makes a big difference. Sometimes they report to me, and some of them are very happy about putting in their emails, oh, Brother Snider, I worked with so-and-so this week, and they've really improved, that kind of thing.
Own free will and choice.
Of their own free will and choice, exactly.
I think we're keenly aware that not all we ask to be reported is valuable, or not all we measure is valuable, and that not all that's valuable is
Reported.
measurable,
That's a good point.
But we try to look for these proxies, and we're always trying to improve them. But we recognize, and we see, unfortunately, still some of that stuff going on. Announcements, check, There's so much that can be done with an announcement. We're just asking if you did them. But, there are announcements and there are announcements. There's great feedback and there's feedback.
Yep.
And, at some point, we want the return report to be there to ensure something happens. But that's kind of like, we just know there's so much that can be done with those tools. But we can't really measure well the quality of effort. We hope, so we just teach that through principle, because it's kind of tough to measure.
Some things are. But the nice thing is that some things we can measure. We can go out and figure out. But we're going to get a little more into that. What gets rewarded gets repeated. This is something a lot of people always leave off. What gets rewarded gets repeated. And I want to make sure I emphasize that one point for just a moment. How many of you guys have ever had a situation where you've had an instructor that just wasn't doing well in an area, and you go out and you try to work with them and you point that out to them, hey, you're really kind of slacking in this area, or maybe over here in this area. But you work to try to fix that thing. But what about the areas that they're doing well? Do you emphasize those? It's just as important to remind them that they're doing well in a particular area. Maybe point out that they're not meeting an area over here. Maybe they're barely meeting expectations. Maybe. Sometimes they're not even doing that. Those areas that they're really slacking in, obviously, we have to hit those and talk about those and work with them on that. But sometimes we miss the opportunity to say, but you're not doing so great on your discussion boards, but by golly, you are fantastic on your feedback to your students. That kind of thing, yes.
I think that's really true. I remember as a new instructor, we were struggling on a course, and then I think it may have been when I was doing the transition to 3.0 for the course, and the TGL got on me about my announcements, because I hadn't been doing my announcements like I had before. But we really got to know what the circumstances are. We need to know what their circumstances are as far as their load in the course. Because I was spending 20 hours a week doing all these other things with fixes and this and that and the other in the transition. And so it was kind of hurtful. Hey, I'm busting my buns over here doing all of this. And you say, well, how come you're not doing your announcements? So we really got to know the lay of the land sometimes with people and get to know them, just like we do in the church with home teaching and so on. I remember years ago I was an elders quorum president in a small town in Missouri, and we had a medical school. All of my counselors left, and the stake president came up, kind of like a TGL, to kind of see what things were going on. He started asking about this and asking about this, and he said, well, how come you're not getting this done? How come you're not getting this done? And I said, well, President, all my counselors have gone, I'm home teaching 15 families. I said, so we really got to kind of know, not to give them excuses, but really know what the real circumstances are sometime when we do criticism.
Mm-hmm.
But I think your point was we need to encourage the positives, things that they're doing, and then point out the other.
That's a good point.
I think another thing to consider is that often in an area where they're either not meeting expectations or barely meeting expectations, there might be a sort of one best, not like amazing, but best practice that they are doing. So maybe, overall the discussion boards aren't up to par, but there are a few specific discussion board posts that you thought were really good quality. Try to draw their attention to those good posts and be like, I'd love to see you be able to bring this quality of discussion to other weeks. Or if they have one really good announcement, be like, I love that you shared this Mormon message and added that spiritual thought. Maybe for next semester you want to look at finding more that fit with the class. So they already see, this is hard for me, but there are things I'm doing well and I can build on.
One of the things I found that works for me is, and I feel like I'm jumping ahead a lot, but you know what? That's okay, because this is a discussion. We'll flow with it. So if my slides suddenly are like, well, we already covered that, Brother Snider, that's okay. We'll click through them. one of the things that came to mind when you were just saying that was that I like to take, when I find one of my instructors that's doing something exceptionally well, I go to them and ask them, hey, you're doing this so well. Would you mind if I share it with the others? And some of them are like, oh, no. Don't want that. And I'm like, how about if I take your name off? Okay, yeah, that's fine. Most of the time. And I love to share positive things that my instructors are doing.
I do a similar thing, but what I try to do is get my instructors, I ask them, would you be willing to share that on our community board? Because I think all the instructors could benefit from that.
Mm-hmm.
And then they'll do that, and
Yeah, that's
he's sharing it, they're sharing it.
yeah.
And it's a lot of positive reaction.
That's a very good point. I should have pointed out that would be a great way to do it. Definitely the community page. Let's go ahead and jump ahead a little bit here and see if we can. I want to show another video. I'm looking at the time, making sure we have time. We do. This video I found in the self-reliance class dealing with finances, and it was kind of funny to find it there because it actually deals with time. But I want you guys to watch how the sister in the short video prepares for her day. What she does, and she's talking about time and using that. Don't get bogged down on the time. Watch how she prepares for her day, uses her day, and most importantly, watch for opportunities that she took to return and report. So let me see if I can get that to come up.
God has given us a great gift, our time. We must do with it what matters most. Every morning I rise before the sun, I dress and wash my face and hands. I read the scriptures, then I make a list of what I should do that day. I think of who I must serve. I pray to know God's will, and I listen. Sometimes the names or faces of people come to mind. I add them to my list, and I pray for strength and wisdom. I pray that God will consecrate my performance. It says that in 2 Nephi chapter 32. I thank Him. I promise to do my best. I ask that He will do what I cannot. Then I look at my lists. I put a 1 by the most important thing, then a 2. I listen when I pray. Then I go to work. I look at number 1 and try to do it first. Then number 2. Sometimes things change. The Holy Ghost tells me to do something else. That is good. I work very hard, but I have peace. I know God will help me. So with my lust and the Spirit, I do what matters. When I finally prepare for bed, I pray again. I report to Heavenly Father. I tell Him how the day went. I ask questions. I ask what I can do better. I listen. I love Him, and I often feel His love. I know He magnifies what I try to do. Then I have peace and I sleep. You won't give up things that do not matter. You will use your time to do what does matter. And God will be with you if your heart is right.
I love that video. What did you learn about return and report?
God has given us a great gift.
Let's see if we
our
can stop
time.
it.
We must do with it what matters.
What did you learn about return and report from that video?
The reporting is for our benefit. She goes and prays and gives an accounting of her day to the Heavenly Father. He already knows what she did. It's for her benefit that she's, reporting on what she did so that she can reflect on what she could do better.
I like that. definitely for ours. Yes.
Well, I just had to present on this too in my calling at church. And what I got out of that was because she had involved the Spirit and her prompt, and she had followed the prompting, listened to the Spirit, and kind of made her priorities list with the Lord's help. That needed an accounting. That needed a reporting. Because it wasn't just her ideas, it was just accountable to herself. But she had sought out the Lord's inspiration on what to do that day and what not.
Yeah, she sought, how can she improve? Isn't that very much to what we have been learning about today? You know, we start out with, what can I do what can I do? How do I do it? And then reporting on it. What was the number one word she kept emphasizing? Did you guys catch that? I think it was like 5 or 6 times that she said that word, and every time she said, and I listen, right? And I listen. I prayed in the morning. I listened. I listened for the Spirit. During the day. And then when she got back at the end of the day, she reported how she did, and she listened. We as TGLs have the same thing, and as OCRs as well. We have that same thing. We need to listen to the Spirit. She prepared for her day. She got up, she washed, she did her scripture reading. She, all before, because the whole thing was about how to make that list, right? I mean, that's what the original video was about. Make the list, prioritize your day. We're not going to emphasize that, but she prepared for that. Then she did her activity, the list, and then she did her day, and then she came back and reported it. It's all part of that together, isn't it? It's all part of that puzzle.
One thing I thought when she was making her list and numbering the things that are most important, and then she said sometimes plans change or she doesn't get to everything. It kind of made me think of doing the course visits and like not focusing on everything they've done that could be fixed, but focusing on the most important things or making that list so that they're not so overwhelmed. Because I make to-do lists all the time, but they're so long, And so I just had that thought that the list, that idea of prioritizing and then just focusing on that and then being willing to adjust is something that I took away from the video too.
Yeah. That's an important part. Definitely, you mentioned not trying to point out every negative. If we go through and point out every negative our instructors are doing, it might overwhelm them. If we look at the most important things that they can do to improve, we can bring them there. My aim has a saying that I think is actually very accurate, and it's true. It might not be the right time for that instructor to be teaching. Whenever I go to my aim with this instructor is going through this, and this. I mean, I've had an instructor who's lost his father. I had another one that lost their job, and another one who had to move for work. I mean, all these different things. And it always goes back to the same thing. Well, maybe this isn't the right time for them to be teaching. And my first thought, first time he did that was, well, yeah, but I don't want to lose this instructor. You know what? It forced me to think, how can I improve? How can I work with that instructor to make sure they're not lost? Because it might not have been the right time. I've actually had several instructors I've had to agree with them, and they agreed with us. It's not the right time for them to be teaching. We had to replace them mid-semester. That's hard. That is real hard to do. But unfortunately, some people's situations dictate that. Others have said, I'm not going to be back next semester. I'll finish out the semester. I'll do my best between now and then, but I'm not going to be back next semester. That's hard to deal with too. But all of that came from, in every one of those situations, I got to tell you, with every one of the situations where we've ever lost an instructor has come from going out and finding the problem, not them come telling me. I've never had one come say, Brother Snider, I am going through this situation right now, and I need some help, that I wasn't able to help keep teaching. It's the ones who have come back, that I've gone out and said, hey, I've noticed you haven't been in your class for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever. And it would be really nice if you'd actually show up. And what's going on? That type of thing. And we've been able to find out what's going on. And those are the ones we wind up losing. Let's go ahead and with this. What do we return and report as TGLs? And I apologize to anybody that's an OCR in here. I am on OCR as well, but I kind of wrote this around as TGLs. What do we return and report? We have a lot of reports. How well do we use? What we're wanting to emphasize here is how well do we meet the BYU-I mission in our teaching? That's what we're looking for in our instructors. How well do they meet the mission? So anybody know what the mission is? We'll get to that. What BYU-I teaching tools do we use, and how well do we use them? And also, what other tools as instructors might we use? Those type of things all need to be viewed and looked at to determine what's going on. So let's go to the mission statement. Let's have somebody on the side. Anybody willing to read it? Would you please read that?
Brigham Young University, Idaho was founded and is supported and guided by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Its mission is to develop disciples of Jesus Christ who are leaders in their homes, the church, and their communities.
So this is our goal. This is the whole purpose we're here. Now there are 4 parts to this that we're going to break this down a little bit. Somebody please read this for us. What is this one?
Building testimonies of the restored gospel of Jesus Christ and encouraging living principles.
That's the first thing we do. So as TGLs, when you're looking at an instructor's course, this is the number one thing you're looking for. That's the first thing on the mission statement that we're trying to accomplish. Build testimonies. Quite frankly, if your teacher is bad at teaching math and they're a math teacher, it can work with that, right? You can help them to do that. But what if they're bad at teaching the gospel? We can help them with that too. But we need to know it. That's the most important thing we do. A student will learn math in a math class just by the natural do of the assignments. And yes, a good teacher helps. But it is critical. It is so critical that we build testimonies. I cannot emphasize that enough. Your first job, and I should mention to this, I'll take a moment with this, I've got enough time. This is not just a job. How many of you guys were called to be a teacher? Anybody? Guess what? I actually was. I was called into my bishop's office. He sat me down and said, Brother Snider, I just thought I'd let you know, I put your name in to BYU-Idaho. And I said, for what? He says, to be an instructor. About a week later, I got a call back. Hey, Brother Snider, we'd like to interview you. I was like, okay. The benefit of that for me was that my bishop actually submitted my paperwork. I didn't even know he did it, until after he had already had. But the benefit for me was it got me to understand this is a calling. You guys may have submitted your paperwork. You may have said, hey, I need extra money. I'm going to go get a job online. That's okay. It's still a calling. In this life, I had a stake president once teach me this little principle. I had been asked to by the Boy Scouts of America to work as a district commissioner, and that was going to take, because of the time that it was working, I would actually have to be released from my other calling to be able to do that, and so I was a little concerned. And my bishop was like, "Oh yeah, Brother Snider, you need to do that." I said, "Well, wait a minute. I'm going to go talk to the stake president," because I didn't trust my bishop on that one. I went and talked to my stake president. He says, "No, Brother Snider," he says, "you got to understand, in life there are callings that you're set apart for." He says, "There are callings you're not set apart for." He says, "When was the last time somebody put their hands on your head and made you a home teacher?" And I said, when I was made a teacher, So that's, I said, I remember that. He says, okay, but he says, but there are life callings. Brothers and sisters, this is a life calling. You are called to minister to these young men and women, these students, and to your instructors. That is your calling. We build testimonies of Jesus Christ. So I think I beat that one enough, right? That's the first one. Next one, we provide a quality education. That's the subject area. It's second. Third, prepare students for lifelong learning and employment. Get them ready to graduate. That means we do actually care that not only did they learn the subject, but they can apply it in their outside world, right? And maintain a wholesome academic environment. What's this one? Honor code, right? We have the honor code that we expect them. So plagiarism's a big deal. I know in my classes we find that to be a real big problem. So we're still working on that. Okay, so how is this evaluated? Due to time, we only have about 10 minutes left. Will be kind of pushing forward a little bit more on these last few sections, so please bear with me. Couple things, self-assessments. These are what the instructors fill out themselves, right? You guys have seen these? The pre-semester checklist, the self-assessment, and the weekly reflections. Why is that pre-semester checklist important? What is that for? To be prepared, but to be ready for the start of the semester, right? I have had, over the time that I've been a TGL, going on, what is this, I think this is my 6th or 7th semester being a TGL. I've had quite a few new instructors. Every semester I get like a half my group is a whole brand new bunch. And inevitably, they're not ready. Those new ones aren't ready. I'm going to give you guys a tool that you can use to keep track of new instructors and help you to know which ones you need to kind of keep an eye on. And I'll show that and share that with you too. Course evaluation forms from the students. They do assessments, mid-year and final. And then also, TGLs, as TGLs, we do a pre-course visit, right? In addition to what the instructor submitted. And we also do our visits as well as the instructor assessment. So what do we actually look at? As TGLs, what do we go look at? Obviously with the course visits, we want to look at announcements. It's the easiest thing to look at. You first go in, do they have announcements? Right? But I think it was you that mentioned, okay, look for, or maybe one of you guys over here that mentioned, how good is that quality of an announcement, right? When I go through and do these evaluations, every time I get to the course visits, I'm like, course visits, no, not again. Because they seem like I get done with them, and I kid you not, it happens every time. I submit my course visits, and literally a week later, course visit time, it comes up and starts popping up on my email. So gotta do it again. But I go through and I do my course visits, but they take me at least an hour per instructor, and many times over 2. And that's just to do the visit, not to mention report back on it. I did one time do a course visit. I got tired of it. I said, that's it. 15 minutes. That's all anybody gets. I'm doing 15 minutes per. I can bound through these things. I know exactly what I'm looking for. I went in, looked into each one. 15 minutes. Got them done. I have never had a semester where I had 5. Not kidding you. 5. That's half of my instructors came back and said, Brother Snider, I don't know what you were looking at. And one of them was right. I looked at the wrong course because I did not prepare. I was, get them done. Be careful with that one, by the way. Take a look at whose course it is before you start evaluating it. Discussion boards. Are they reading them? I'm going to show you quickly here in a minute where to find out if they're actually reading them. Are they posting to their discussion boards? And you actually have to go read some of their posts. It takes a lot to do a good course evaluation. Grading. Are they doing their grading? Is it up on time? Now, I will admit, most of my time is the grading up to date? Yes or no? There's not much more there. They either did it or they didn't. Feedback. That is a nightmare. And right now, I would suggest tomorrow, go take one of the feedback classes. I'm not going to teach you how to find feedback. It is nightmarish to find in iLearn 3. Because I kid you not, I do a massive amount of feedback. And my aim every time comes back, and I keep trying to reteach him where I hide my feedback. And it's because I put it on a particular assignment every time. But he can't find it. It's inevitably, he can never find it, so I always get marked as below standards. Yeah, I'm a TGL for all this time, and I'm here teaching you guys this, and I'm always, every semester, or every visit, I always get marked down for feedback. What other tools might an instructor use? There are lots of other tools they might be using. Email, for example, Adobe Connect. Both of these are provided by BYU-I, right? But they also might be using other stuff, Google Hangouts, etc. You know, whatever. Tons of other tools. How do we even evaluate those? That could be very difficult.
I think that's why it's important to have a relationship with your instructors, because then you know how they're communicating otherwise, right? Because data is just data, but without a relationship, then you know what's happening in a course. So that's important.
Yeah. You pretty much have to know their course. And if you're like me and you've got 10 instructors and only 3 of them share a similar course, it becomes very difficult to know every course that's out there. Okay, let's see here. Also, we have the instructor assessment. Are they building faith in Jesus Christ? That one is several different places, so you might have to look. Are they doing that through emails? Are they doing that in announcements? Are they doing that in their feedback? And are they doing it in all places they can? What kind of opportunities are they doing? Are they just tossing out a simple quote from one of the general authorities? That's okay. That's helpful. That's at least something. Or are they, or are they going in and bearing solid testimony? There is a difference. Develop relationships with and among students. Very important. Inspiring love of learning. They can do that with feedback, right? Helping them to understand, hey, you did okay here, but you could do better there. Emphasize university citizenship. Like I said, plagiarism is a real problem with my teaching group. We have a lot of instructors that students are from all over the world, and some countries do not understand what plagiarism is. We can't just stomp on it. We have to educate and help them to understand that. Seek development opportunities. Are they participating in the in our synchronous meetings? Are they out there on our community page? Those opportunities, and are they doing their SMART goals? Those type things. What other things might we look for? We got all kinds of things. This I wanted to get to with our time runs out fast, doesn't it? This is one of the things. I have a copy of for each of you guys. I submitted this also to the school for those people that are viewing this at home or online. You can get a copy of this. I used actual one, but I kind of tweaked it for my group. The one I've submitted is a template of this. I created this as a means to be able to go and make it so we can be able to get a little more information. I can't tell you how many times I forget what my instructors are teaching. That's really helpful. Also, here I mark in red if it's late. If I go out and I bug them. Hey, they didn't turn in their weekly report. Hey, where's your weekly report? Did I miss it? Oh no, Brother Snider, you didn't miss it. I didn't turn it in. Well, can you get that into me? Yeah, I'll get it in. Well, it's late. It gets red. Why do that? Why do I do that? Anybody got an idea? Why I would care if it was late? Patterns, absolutely. This one doesn't show a good one. I should have probably pulled one from 2 semesters ago where I had one where I had 3 weeks in a row that instructor was late. On the 4th week, I said, I'm going to go do a course visit. I went out and found out those 3 weeks, he hadn't even been in his class, hadn't even logged in. We wound up having to replace them midterm. Wouldn't have known that otherwise. Of course, this is announcements. I'm just going to jump through a few things. Oh, this actually here. Class project progress. You guys know this under my grades? You can go to class progress. Pull up the instructor. You know, then unfortunately I didn't grab one. I had actually missed a couple of classes. I was hoping to grab that, but I missed getting my image for it. Come in here, you can find out how often do they come in and log in. You can see when they're logged in and how often. That's kind of cool. Come under discussions. You can look at the different discussions. You can see, you know, how many did they read? How many did they post? How many did they create? Are they participating? Then you can drill down and go in and look at the actual discussion. Very helpful. How do we use these results? What are they all for? And how are they used? Okay, so what do we use these for? To build our instructors, to help them to meet those objectives that they need. How are they used? Anybody know what happens to these reports that we put in? All these reports that we fill out? What happens to them? They go to that big black hole, right? First, a copy goes to your instructors, right? They get a feedback because that's our feedback to them. Just like when we're doing in class, our students do an assignment, we give them feedback. This is our feedback to our instructors. As their TGLs, kind of think of yourself as their instructor. We're giving them the feedback. They get it. We get a copy now. After much complaining that it was a big black hole, it disappeared, and I never get to see it again, they finally start giving it to us. And it does go to the AIMS and our instructor manager, and finally it goes up to the main office, or what we call the home office. Very important, because it's used to help them to be able to look at that. They put all those together and look at those things. Can it be used for other purposes? You bet. We're going to jump ahead, because I want to get to this other part. Report back to the instructor. This is what it's for. It's really for the instructor. We want to help them to be able to have discussions. If necessary, performance discussions. What's the difference? A discussion is just, hey, I noticed you could improve in this area. Well, what is a performance discussion? Documented, and it's a slap on the wrist type thing, right? Unless it becomes severe. If so, then we can go from there. That's not part of this class, so I'm not going to get into it that much. But do understand, there is a difference. We want to stick with just discussions. We report back to management. They get those performance reports, right? Very important. And finally, we report to Father. Just like the lady in the video, just like the sister in the video, at the end of the day, when you go to do these reviews of your instructors, I hope that just like her, you prepared ahead of time, where she washed her hands and face and read her scriptures and prayed. I hope that you do similarly. Find what works for you, but start with a prayer and end with a prayer. And I will end my class there. Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate it.